Hello, welcome to another edition of Your View. I am Mariah Afolabi Brown. As always, I don't do this alone. I have my lovely co-host here. Hey, Topsy Tops.
I think we're still in the Retido spirit.
Yes, something like that. How you doing, Top? How's your weekend?
My weekend was very good. I have to thank Jumoke. Jumoke, God bless you. I didn't know she would be that useful during the interview. She was fantastic. I was like, I knew she was the right person for you to come. I said, well, I just thought that Jumoke should join me, and she just took charge. She was asking all the right questions, like you've worked for human resources people before, and everything was really nice. God bless you. We had a really nice time. I heard you had a really nice time too. Well, it was a good weekend. I'm grateful to God for the journey so far.
Great. So how many people have joined them?
We had about 31 people show up for the interview. We've shortlisted about 15.
Okay.
Yeah, for the scholarship program.
Fantastic.
And that I'm happy about.
Great. Very good. Hey, Nima.
Yes. Nima is fine. Good morning, everybody. It was a crazy meeting weekend for me. I wanted to sleep, but I couldn't. Unfortunately, I've crashed all the weekend meetings into my weekend, and I have a free week.
Oh.
My job here, so.
Okay, we're working now.
Oh, that's true. How's that going? Say something now. You're acting as if you're
progressing. I don't want to talk too much.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Hi, Jumoke. How are you?
I'm fine. The exact opposite is the situation for me. I had a very long weekend, and it hasn't finished. So it continues today. It's going to be a busy week, but we thank God for work.
Cool. I had a great weekend.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It was a fantastic event on Saturday. I think Wale Tejumade, who I was there with Norma, was a great event. We had fun. I mean, I've been to lots of speaking shows, but trust me, that was just different.
Organized.
I mean, it was just, and interestingly, the other ladies that went along with me from the makeup room, even this morning, they were all just pouring out. They got so much meat, and I'm like, I thought I was the only one. So everybody was a blessing.
That was the part that impressed me, because I knew that I heard you say that it was nice, but I wanted to hear what the people that attended as they were going to attend to get something, and they really got a whole lot, and I was happy about that.
I got so much that I started implementing already. Fantastic. I'm so excited. Right, so nothing else. So let's take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll look through the front pages of the newspaper. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, let's start with the Punch. Fresh 22.7 billion naira charges. EFCC lines up 25 witnesses against Tompolo others. Picture here of Commissioner of Police, Kano State, with some castle rustlers. $2.1 billion scam. Falano drags Dasuki others before ICC. Late Delta Monarchs kidnappers abandon 100 million naira ransom. Crisis looms in APC over federal board's appointments. 50 spare parts shops raised in Ibadan. Workers panic as state shun contributory pension scheme. Herdsmen kill 3 policemen, 60 others in Adamawa and Kaduna. And federal government removes kerosene subsidy. All right, so the main headline, which is, we'll talk about that a bit later. Let's talk about this Niger Delta Monarchs kidnappers. Who read that story?
Yes, I read that story. Last week we read about the Delta Monarch that was kidnapped, that died in his kidnappers' den, unfortunately. But today the story in the papers was that the community had raised the 100 million naira ransom that the kidnappers demanded, but the kidnappers left that money in the bush and fled. Now, surprisingly, some of them are saying there's an inner link to it. Maybe somebody, some people are involved. They're suspecting other things. For me, it was worrisome because I don't see why Nigerian kidnappers, considering the trend that we know, would leave 100 million naira in the bush in a sack and then kill the monarch. Except they intended to kill him initially. Except for that.
Okay. All right. Did anybody read this Falana story?
Did they do autopsy on that man to find out if he was killed or he died?
But I'm sure we don't do such level of investigation. What I thought from that story.
No assume.
We rarely do autopsy to find out the cause of death. We just thank God that, well, it's moved on to a better place in most cases. But I think that in Nigerian style, you attach it to jazz, because this is a monarch and there were a lot of investigations done locally, traditionally.
Moving on to The Nation. Alleged 22 billion naira fraud. EFCC charges Tompolo in Lagos. The charges, some of the allegations, converting over 22.7 billion naira Nimasa cash to personal use, defrauding the federal government by making false representations, violating Money Laundering Act. EFCC to quiz Bade, others in batches. Picture here also of New York. I think that's after the biggest blizzard the city has experienced since 1869. Tinubu, defectors won't heat up APC. All right, let's talk about Tompolo here.
Well, he's been charged to court. He's still missing. I know that the EFCC and the security official operatives are on to him, but he has said that he doesn't trust the system, which is why he's hiding.
But there are new charges now, aside from the 34 billion, which he was accused of. There's an additional 22.7 there, which is saying is the master's money, and it was now diverted. So that's a new charge, and well,
I think he should have his day in court. My only worry is that witnesses in the case have been named. I hope that they have a witness protection program in Nigeria.
Because he's a very powerful
They didn't name. They just said in this certain banks, this person. They didn't really give the exact names. I didn't see the names when the article I read, but just told us where they are and who they are. They didn't say
where they are, so that you can just go there.
And then next thing, all the witnesses will disappear. None of them will be willing to.
25 witnesses. All right. Anybody with the anyway? Let's move on very quickly to Vanguard. Pipeline bombings. Hand over suspects. Federal government tells Ijaw communities. DPO scores killed as gunmen storm 4 villages in Adamawa. El Zakzaki is recovering in Abuja after medical treatment in France. Federal government removes kerosene subsidy, pegs petrol at 83 naira per litre. And UAE no longer safe haven for Nigerian looters, says federal government. All right, let's pick two stories here.
I want to talk about the story of the pipeline vandalism,
Yeah.
the bombing. Because when the Boko Haram crisis started, the security officials kept saying that they can't fight it on their own without the help of the local people within the area, the villagers, the chiefs, everybody must be involved. Now, with the rate of pipeline vandalism, the bombings taking place within some communities, people are carrying out these attacks. They know themselves. I think we need to cooperate with each other because this is the commonwealth of the entire nation. They should speak up against wrongdoings within their area, even if they have any complaints.
And that's exactly what the federal government, from this article, that's what the federal government
That's what the federal government is asking, Mariah. But I can imagine being an indigene of one of these states, not to encourage what they're doing. If you think that the federal government is so far off from you, as in governance is far-fetched, this is my own governance. Do you understand? You think of survival first. You know, so what we need to do is to put the right systems in place. People will generally fall in line. I will still, if I'm assured that when I'm done at 65, my pension is secure.
Worrisome for me is the community in question. Baramatu is where we are looking for Tompolo. And these same people know where he is, you know, so it's easily you want them to, you know, mention at least somebody should to help the government. I wanted to take the story of the kerosene subsidy.
Oh yeah, kerosene.
Kerosene was, you know, subsidized at 50 naira before, and federal government has removed that subsidy now and, you know, pegged the price at 83 naira. Their defense in the report is that at landing costs, they will make a profit of 10 naira. And, you know, for every marketer and middleman, the entire cost of bringing it, landing or initial cost is 57.98 kobo. 57 naira 98 kobo, and they'll be making 14 naira 30 kobo. To cover that cost of, you know, landing, middlemen and all that. So there's still profit, and whoever brings it at that price will still comfortably make a 10 naira profit. So, you know, if government, but unfortunately government is saying that only NNPC filling stations will get products from them. So
83 naira. Other stations may have to sell,
but you know, with this breakdown they've given, if anybody is trying to sell beyond that price, that person is just being greedy. That's why government must continue to regulate that price. You know, the kerosene subsidy is even bigger. The fraud on that kerosene subsidy is even bigger, far bigger than petroleum subsidy, and it's been on for too long. Because I remember that Yar'Adua reduced this, you know, remove the price,
subsidy,
remove the subsidy and put the price at paid subsidy and put the price at 15 naira. But then people were still getting subsidy and, you know, still selling above.
now that we have, now that we know the breakdown, you can then calculate. So it's either you buy at NNPC or buy.
The NNPC already said that they are the only ones that they can only assure that they would sell for 83.
So they're not regulating.
It's never sold for 15 naira before, except in NNPC filling stations. It's always sold for over 100 naira. So it's still going to continue. So they're not regulating anymore.
All right,
it's worrisome. Most of the population use kerosene.
I agree.
Sure. All right, Daily Sun very quickly. Dasuki Gate. We are all corrupt. Ex-Governor Bafarawa's bombshell says 90% Nigerians involved. Let me read his quote from his interview. 90% of Nigerians are corrupt because when you go to the grassroots, corruption starts from there. The electorate will demand money before voting a candidate, no matter how good he is or how his ideology is. Nigeria to emerge Africa's economic hub in 2026, says Minister of Science and Technology, that's ONU. We have confidence in Kalu, says Kingsman, and Olubadan didn't put Yoruba to shame, says Tinubu. All right, who read this? We are not corrupt article.
I like the way it was captioned. We are all corrupt, and I've always agreed with it. It's about the Dasuki Gate and the monies that was shared by everybody, and they're saying that 90% of the politicians are involved, and even we, the electorate, you're not going to vote me except I give you some money. And I totally agree with that, Mariah. Corruption is institutionalized, is all of us. We should stop pointing fingers. We should be the change that we want to see. I totally agree with that.
As much as I agree with it, all of us are corrupt, but some of us are more corrupt than others, if you consider the amounts in question.
Based on the opportunities that you have now. You are not the president. Go ahead, Mariah.
I have a different view, though. I think that if you actually provide the basic amenities for the average Nigerian. Now, the reason why people are corrupt is because they're trying to cut corners and do things just to get more money. Now, if we have the basic electricity, you have a home, you have a job, and you have decent roads, you have everything. The probability you'll be corrupt is slimmer because you have the basic necessary in life.
They had to fly out El Zakzaki to treat his gunshot wound in France. Don't we have hospitals in Nigeria? If I have opportunity to, if people are privy to getting money illegally, knowing that if I have cancer or something, Desani is treating her cancer in the UK. That justifies why she stole all those money, because she knows that if she stays here and she doesn't steal, if she will just die of cancer in Nigeria.
Same thing I'm saying. So if you have good hospitals in Nigeria, if you have everything properly done, people would not necessarily need to steal, because how many beds can you sleep on? How much food can you eat?
How many cars would you drive?
Exactly. Then some people will still park the cars in their company.
No, but they're saying that economic development and corruption, they're they're intertwined. Now, it is corruption that makes the economy go down. So we need to first of all kill corruption before we can place the right systems in place. Because Mariah,
I don't know.
An airstrip that ought to cost maybe 1 billion, you build it with 32 billion. Because Jumoke wrote you an invoice, Tokpe wrote you an invoice, you added your own, all of us.
It's intertwined, as you said, correct. I think we can do it simultaneously, not necessarily do one before the other. That's what I think. Last paper this morning, which is this day. All eyes on CBN over future of Naira. Very important. Falana writes ICC 6 investigation of Dasuki others. Invest in power, infrastructure, Fashola tells pension fund managers. And headsmen kill 30, raise 5 villages. So many stories you should take here. I am actually interested in the Naira, the CBN story. I'm interested in the Fashola story, and I'm interested in the Falana story. So which one are we taking?
Falana going to ICC. He must know more than the rest of us, because because the ICC treats human rights.
Human rights.
One second. Let's have.
Can I break it down?
He's connecting it, saying that what they did is against human rights, because you're not allowing the army to have the arms they need to actually defend themselves. So you're not allowing the army to have the arms they need to actually defend themselves. So we lost 25,000 soldiers and 2 million have been displaced.
God bless you.
So that's human rights.
And remember that Falana stood up for in the mutiny case to defend those lawyers for free.
Yes.
So now, if he's coming out to say this, he must know maybe more than you do, that
I read international
people
law.
lost their lives.
The International Court of Criminal Justice
Yes.
fights human rights
War
and
crimes.
war crimes.
Exactly.
This issue is indirectly a war crime, if Falana is right. It's not directly, it's corruption.
It is. So
And the
directly.
corruption is domiciled in Nigeria. They will never interfere in internal
it
issues.
involves-
Yeah, what
No,
he- what-
whenever it involves a loss of life in an arbitrary way like this, when somebody diverts this
get
amount of money, it becomes a concern.
all
for
he's
the-
doing
Indirectly,
is
though.
writing to them that, listen, come and investigate.
Investigate.
See if this is something you can take up on. All right?
Exactly. I would
Yes.
like to see how they respond
Yeah.
to him.
All
I
right.
mean, that will create a new law.
Fashola, nobody want to talk about it? Or CBN?
Fashola, I'm very interested about Fashola. CBN, all eyes are on them anyways. Fashola was saying to the pension fund managers at a meeting in Abuja over the weekend that he does not understand why they will have about 5 trillion available to them in funds, and they're not making it available for us to invest in power, in housing,
Infrastructure, yeah.
general infrastructure, you know, because he thinks, and I agree with him, if you put 5 trillion here, in 5 years, you should be getting 15 trillion. And Nigerians will have all the infrastructure that we need for us. Why are you sitting on monies available to you? But he says that most of these people are afraid that there is no investable equipment or something
Vehicles,
like that.
investable vehicles. Because also they've had issue with politics in Nigeria, where
corruption.
corruption and also the fact
Hey.
that contracts and agreements are not upheld. So he's saying that this administration would honor all agreements, and he also encouraged a lot of lawyers to focus on PPP, that's public-private partnerships, to help defend all this contract, because a lot of a new government comes in and say, oh sorry, I'm cancelling this contract. So we need to ensure that these contracts are.
Excuse me,
We need to
Governor, ex-Governor Fashola. I remember you cancelling the contract with the Lekki
LCC.
Yes.
And then I wish you read. Did you read the article he wrote? That speech.
No.
I read that speech, and he actually explained what happened there. But let's not go into that. I'll explain to you later. But let's move on very quickly. That's all we can take on the front. I read Fashola's article well. I read it and I reread it. So I was like, all right, take a quick break. When we come back, our hot topic for today: military officers to declare assets. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. According to reports, the Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, has asked all officers of the Nigerian Army who have not declared their assets to do so immediately. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it is an effective tool for fighting corruption? It's your view. You can call us on 070-8066-8014. You can tweet to us at TVC Connect. That's TVC Connect, 2 C's. And please hashtag your view TVC so we can see your tweets. All right, everybody's declaring assets here and there. What exactly has that got to do with fighting corruption?
At face value, it looks like, is this necessary? But when you dig deeper, we use every resource we have to protect ourselves. We've seen the way people steal money, misappropriate funds that were meant for the good of others. So if declaring assets would further protect the income belonging to this country, everybody should declare assets. Even I would willingly declare assets within my office where I work, if that would help us ensure that whatever appropriated is spent appropriately. However, declaration of assets in itself cannot end corruption.
Okay. I wanted to pick on, you kept on saying if. Let us do it, if. So let us move into that if situation. I don't think that declaring your asset is going to stop anyone. You know why? If I declare that I have 2 houses, 2 cars, and we use the example of the president saying that he had the 11 cows or 30 cows, and suddenly they're spending a huge amount on farm and gardens. If I declare I have 10 cars, 20 cars, and I start to steal, if the system doesn't clean up corruption to the extent that I am unable to steal, I can steal the money, pay it into my wife's account, and I've seen it happen. Somebody who wanted me to inflate an invoice for them told me to pay the amount into his wife's account. So, are you going to ask them to declare the assets of their wives also?
I think
and
so
their children, and everybody, their sister, their uncle, their friend?
Well,
EFCC, while investigating Dasuki, also locked up his son's house. The governor of what's the state that was, charged to court and arraigned alongside his sons because they were involved in a contract and the monies were paid into their account. Now, for me, declaration of assets is very important, even in the civil, especially in the civil service, because ordinary recruitment within the civil service, they will ask a person to, an applicant to come and pay a certain amount of almost $500,000 to just one person who they think will influence his employment. If there was declaration of assets, for instance, the civil service itself will wonder why a person who should earn maybe 100 and something thousand monthly ends up like the case that we had, having 500 million naira in his account. Immediately when the president was sworn in, the first thing they did about the civil service, they found civil service ministers and directors of ministries of federal ministries having 500 million naira in their account. If you truly were a civil servant, you must have a business alongside that you must be able to defend. Now, is it allowed for you to have a business that you man as a civil servant, where you should have, where do you put your 24 hours attention?
But going back to what Jumoke had said, you can actually find somebody like a trusted friend or somebody, even a neighbor, somebody say, you know what, we'll use you as,
sorry to cut it short, what's his name, this Nimasa boss, they found somebody who is a tailor. If it comes to investigation and tracing, when monies flow through accounts, these monies can be found out. Now, declaration of assets is the only reason why we would know when you come out to say, okay, this money, even if it wasn't in your account, this money did not belong to me or it belonged to me, because we know how much you earn and what you are worth. In Nigeria, we don't know what people are worth.
I think that that's a lie. We all know what each grade should earn in civil service. And when a civil servant, because we've seen a case where someone...
what she meant was that we don't know based on how people earn money. And how they
what we don't do is we do not accredit the lies. We appreciate the fund. We see you that you're supposed to earn maybe like 40K and you're driving a Jeep. We don't ask questions on how you got the money. We just appreciate that God has blessed you, even though it is blessed illegally. Structure should be on ground, Murayo. When I talk about structure, I say that beyond saying that declare assets, the fact that we have a BVN structure, which means that all your assets, all your income that is accrued to your name can be traced easily through one number, helps out. Also, we have the case where, because we used to take money abroad before, they signed treaties with other countries that would help protect us. So it must be beyond just declaring.
All right, let me take this call from Blessing. Blessing, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
What I want to say is that it's good to declare your assets, but I want to ask a question. Can people in Nigeria know the assets that they have in abroad? How are you going to declare that? See, let me tell you something. See, this corruption is good. I'm happy that they are fighting it. But my sister, they cannot get to the root of this thing. Do you know why? Another election is coming. I will sit at home, they will come and give me rice, money, iPad, everything. You expect them to get there, not to get their money. That is one. Number two, everybody that wants to contest, don't forget, they have party leader that they will pay to, that will stop them, that said, this is the one that will go. They have millions. You see, this corruption of a thing, let me use Yoruba and see what will happen. We've just started. God will help us.
Thank you so much.
Please, I know that a lot of people feel this, what she's saying, which is that, you can't go back. We're living the past. The past is done. The corruption in the past, we might not be able to totally thrash it or deal with it. But going forward, what Burata is saying now is that going forward, no army officials would have any opportunity to misappropriate funds the way it was done before. They also say the bank, within that same article, the banks are going to start declaring assets so that nobody going forward, we can't deal with the past, but we must prevent it in the future.
Going to what Blessing said, that's why our president went to sign that
treaty with the UAE,
saying that people cannot easily steal and then go and hide things. But let me take this call. Yakub, are you there?
I'm there, Marayo.
Good morning, Yakub.
Yeah, good morning to you all.
Good morning.
I really understand the last caller, but I want her to understand something. Nigeria, we are moving to change era now. It will get a stage whereby they will do right to you in your home because of election. You will tell them that please take your right, because by that time you have know your right personally, that if I should take this right or I take this money, this is the money that I'm going to get for the rest of the 4 years coming. Kudos to President Muhammadu Buhari. You see, we are very, very lucky this time around because you can never see a president, except this kind of President Muhammadu Buhari, fight somebody like Dansuki Gate, somebody like all those people that I already mentioned. But the only thing that will make Nigeria so happy with this president is that where a situation where that we see them in the prison, that who is this? Dansuki, who is this? This. So you understand. So what am I to help President Muhammadu Buhari? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I like what Yakub said concerning, because it's not just about the fighting corruption part. It's the fact that it actually changes the thinking of the average Nigerian. So we're thinking that in 2019, it is years maybe we've not seen all things change, but it might change the attitude of Nigerians towards all these politicians.
For instance, we're talking about the military. Buratai asking military men to declare their assets. Also, in the customs, they were asking them to declare their assets. If you look at the way corruption goes in these two parastatals, it is not just misappropriation of funds. It is making illegal and illicit funds within. Abusing your uniform or office to make illegal and illicit funds. Within the custom, you want to maybe clear a car, and a custom official would charge you extra. All those kind of runs, or do all that, allow you to.
Okay, let me take Comrade Akpan from Magodo.
Hello, good morning.
Yes. Good morning, Comrade.
Good morning to all of you in the house.
Good morning.
I'm calling from Magodo.
Yes.
Morning, sir.
I want to support the opinion of Yakub from Dokwemo. Honestly speaking, by my name, you should know where I'm coming from, or where I come from, rather. I'm an Akwa Ibom person. I have never one day in my life lost my love for Buhari. I've been campaigning for him against a man that's from my region, and by now as I'm talking, the man has proved in his track record that both in the church as a Christian, I had a lot of problems that time during campaign with some of my Christian brothers and even pastors. But to God be the glory. He is the man that God has brought to salvage the condition of this country. I'm praying for him every day.
Okay.
Any person in any quarter who wants any evil to happen to.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Mariah. Okay. Governor Bukola Saraki, when he was governor, declared his assets. When he became Senate president, so how did that? So they accused him of corruption after he had been governor for 8 years. How did his declaring of assets twice stop him from being corrupt?
Okay, let me explain.
That's some tweets.
He declared assets in anticipation because the dates reflected. There was a difference in what he declared and the dates of the property when he acquired the property. That is the purpose of declaration of assets.
Jackie Spa says, which one are they going to declare? The ones we know or the one we don't know about? The ones in Africa or outside? Saka Damola says, good morning. Military men to declare assets wouldn't help. Our minds are so corrupt that we're going to devise another way to steal. Omolaja said, government should watch its back. Now that the corruption fight has been extended to the military, the boys won't take it lightly.
Okay, Ayodeji says, Jumoke, the CCB form has all those info in it. Spouse account, business cards and all. So, it covers.
Okay. Does he have friends accounts also?
My Daura says, not only officers, even the directors of the federal ministry must declare their assets because they are the virus of corruption.
Okay. Let's bring in Prof here. Let's bring Chris, because this corruption matter is the hottest thing in Nigeria now. Everybody knows corruption. So let's bring in Chris to even help us understand where is this corruption fight going, because nobody has been convicted. We're just hearing allegations. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Corruption has become the norm all over the world, and it is said that when you fight corruption, it will not succumb easily, but will fight back. And this seems to be playing out regarding allegations of corruption against the public office holders. Now, what do we do when corruption fights back? Joining us is a lawyer and social commentator, Prof. Chris Nwakobia. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure to be here. Good morning.
You can call us on 070-8066-8014. You can tweet to us at TVC Connect. That's TVC 2Cs Connect. And please hashtag your view TVC so we can read your tweets. Now, we're talking about corruption, Chris. You know, I think you were here last week, Monday, and we said we have to bring you up to talk about corruption. Allegations, Tompolo, Dasuki Gate, then we had the different people. Where is this leading? Where is it? Because, yes, we see the movement, but we don't even see any actual convictions.
I think that the first thing to note is that one of the greatest problems we've had in our country is corruption. It's endemic, it's terrible, it's torn every modicum of our values apart. And it's torn everything that makes for sane society to smithereens. And as we talk, the only thing we must do is to aggregate at the point where every Nigerian will lampoon, criticize, and repudiate corruption. That's exactly where we are. But when you do that, Professor Wole Soyinka once said that if you fight it, it will fight back. Nuhu Ribadu said the same thing, that now that he's fighting corruption, that was when he was there, that corruption naturally will fight back, and it will muster as much support as it can to fight every effort at fixing society. As you and I talk, it's obvious that there's a fight against corruption. Even the cruelest critic of Mr. President, even the most querulous critics of Mr. President, even the man who doesn't like the name Buhari, even the man who hates the name APC, knows that there's a fight against corruption. What they just do is to say, oh, it's a witch hunt. Then some others will say it's skewed against a party. Some will say all kinds of things. But the truth is that there is a fight. And naturally, permit me the stick, naturally, when people say the fight against corruption is sectional, is skewed against a party, corruption is fighting back. Naturally, when you repudiate every effort at fixing society, corruption is fighting back. Because I'll give you a practical instance, and I'll bring it to day-to-day happenings. If you have a child, and your child has been doing something wrong, and either because you were unwilling to address it at that point, then another child of yours does something very wrong or wrong in your presence, would you, because you did not reprimand the other child, everybody turns out, why are you correcting this child now? Naturally, everybody will say, oh, you have to always correct the others, but what you're doing at this point is right. But Nigerians would rather say, fight corruption from independence. How and where? You know, Nigerians would rather say, oh, go back to Halliburton Can, go back to Siemens. But don't forget that everywhere in the world, if you want to fight corruption, you begin with those who handed over power to you, your predecessors. The immediate predecessors. Because I once told somebody that if you want to clean a house and you're expecting visitors, you have 3 sitting rooms in the house, you start with the immediate sitting room and then perhaps extend to the one next to it, because your visitors are not going to jump the reception room to the third one. Yeah. You know, this is how you, because this is immediately what we know.
Before the other ladies jump in,
Dasuki Gate is a predominant malaise on our hands, and you don't ask Mr. President to leave Dasuki Gate and go to Siemens. You don't ask Mr. President to leave Dasuki Gate and go to Halliburton. It's all partisan invigil if you do that.
Okay, now, I was sitting with some people recently, and they were saying that this whole CBN issue, or maybe that they are not allowing people to pay in dollars to transact, is being targeted, it's being targeted towards a certain tribe. Because they are the ones that are the importers, they're the ones that are the commerce driven. So they're trying to incapacitate these people. You know, what do you think about that?
Again, that's absolutely partisan and unfair. I'll give you a practical instance. You see, we're all held by a single network, a gamut of mutuality. Who trades the forex? Who trades the dollar? Who is the man who does borrow the change?
The Northerners.
The Northerner. Who is the man who does the commerce and importation? The Igbo man. It affects everyone.
And who buys it?
Who buys it? It's a network. Let's be fair and firm.
Okay.
You know, I think that the way to go is call a spade by his name. And for me, the time is always right to do right. I don't expect, Mr. President, and I think it's invidious and inhuman to expect Mr. President to fight every gamut of corruption at the same time. It's impossible.
Chris, sorry.
You know.
Okay, go ahead.
Governor Fayose recently criticized, because you didn't mention names, but he was one of those who said the president should look into Halliburton case and the Siemens case. And last week or early this month, the president started an investigation into the Halliburton case. Is the president, you know, like you said, sweeping the first palo, or, you know, because he's always reacting to what people say? Is, you know, what people say outside influencing how he fights corruption?
I think interestingly that what we have is a very listening president. That's the point. You know, people have tried to vilify him and paint him as dictatorial, but it's obvious that he listens. Now, sizably, I think that the president has asked for an investigation into Halliburton because sizably, the investigation into the Dasuki Gate is progressively ongoing. Okay. And so he's opening investigation on Halliburton because perhaps it's convenient. But I don't think that our president can be muzzled by the opposition. I do sincerely think that some people just throw those darts because they're having problems themselves. Fayose is understandably going through investigation himself because of the issues about the election, the use of the military and their confessions about it. So he, like a drowning man, Fayose would shoot every diatribe. He will hold to every straw. So I can understand him. Okay. You know, and I think the Nigerians should understand him. The point is that what we must do to fix our country, and our president left us with so many quotable quotes. Primarily, before he won the election, he left us with a quotable quote at Chatham House in the UK, when he said that if Nigeria does not kill corruption, corruption will kill Nigeria. And I'll give you a practical instance. When the man called Lee Kuan Yew moved Singapore from a third world economy to a first world economy, he left them with a quotable quote before he began the revolution. He said that he had come to Singapore to do 3 things. And they wondered, the media wondered what? He said to fight corruption, and to fight corruption. And they asked him, what? You just said one thing. He said, no, I'll fight corruption with my body, I'll fight corruption with my soul, I'll fight corruption with my spirit. If I do that, I'll free resources that will develop Singapore.
All right, let me come in.
Okay, so we've had ex-president Obasanjo fight corruption. He created the EFCC in the Nigerian police force. At the time, they said he was going after his political opponents. We agree that corruption will always fight back because, like a politician said in the Vanguard this morning, 90% of us are corrupt. Now, so if you come into office and they have been fighting corruption, lopsided, one-sided, opposition, and then opposition gets into power, and it seems that you are not focusing on your people who we were shining the light upon before, don't you think that people have a right to say that this corruption fight is one-sided?
Let me say first that I totally disagree with Bafarawa about Nigerians, 90% of Nigerians being corrupt. If 90% of Nigerians are corrupt, we will not be where we are now. You know what I mean? Nigeria would have been stolen. Nigeria would have been sold. That's the truth. It's just, I think it's just about 5 to 10% of Nigerians. And that is why, yes, that is why if you notice the boomerang, the reverberation, the Nigerians are excited. It's just politicians that are saying, Nigerians are excited about the fight against corruption. Politicians are just saying, let me land. When I land, you understand where I'm coming from. It's just politicians that are trying to throw darts at this fight. And I tell you, when Obasanjo was here, and why did Ribadu become a phenomenon, so to say?
Because he fought it well at the time.
No, but that same time, people said it was selective. That's unusual. But he became popular because Nigerians want a fight against corruption.
Yes.
Now, as you and I talk, the EFCC is yet again becoming popular because Nigerians, even those who hate the party called APC, even those who do not like Mr. President, I've read commentaries by them, even PDP people saying, oh, so EFCC has suddenly woken up. Yeah. That's because the preponderant number want a fight against corruption. I do sincerely think that what we must do as a people is to appreciate the effort. Now, if people are saying it's selective, I ask you a simple question. Which party ruled Nigeria for 16 years?
The PDP.
Which party appropriated our resources humongously?
The PDP.
And then which party will you begin the probe with?
PDP.
So, what is
But there
selective
were
about it?
APC governors in power in those 16 years.
That also now PDP governors that have now moved to
APC
APC.
governors in power in those 16 years.
That also now PDP governors that have now moved to
Move to
APC.
APC.
Will
Okay,
those
so-
ones be... Okay, I'll let you ask your question, but I need to take a quick commercial break. Is that okay?
No problem.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're going to read your tweets, but let me take a question from Tokwe first. Yeah.
Two questions. One, just before the break, I mentioned the fact that PDP, former PDP governors, members that have decamped to APC suddenly they don't seem to be under scrutiny or any investigation taking place. The one for Saraki also just died down suddenly.
It hasn't died down.
Two, back to your topic. Is declaring assets in any way going to help with this fight against corruption?
Yes, it will. First, let's be careful what we trade in the public space. There is no inquiry about or against any PDP member or governor who moved over to APC that has been halted. Even the investigations on Sylvia, you saw it in court.
Yes.
This party, Jafar Issa is a leader of the APC. When people hold to the few darts they hold, it's unfair. The truth is that every investigation against those who are in the APC has not been halted. It's still ongoing. And the fundamentals are simple. What is the government dealing with in terms of the fight against corruption? What is the major issue now?
He just paid 70 million naira. So, and if it was somebody else would have been hearing his 70 million still, he had paid 100 million. That Jafar Issa, there's still 70 million that is outstanding.
How much has those who are indicted, who from the PDP, how much has those from the PDP returned? These are fundamental issues.
Before you go to the other question concerning the
asset declaration.
Let me take this call from Patrick. Are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
Patrick, go ahead, please.
Right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And there's something Jumoke said about the investigation on corruption being lopsided. That the ruling party is like searching their light on the opposition party. But I want to say that if it is not done like that, we won't see corruption. Yeah. Because if the ruling party focuses on the opposition party and investigate them, we also get in mind that one day they will be ruling. Now, if the opposition party tackles the ruling party, they will also know that one day the light will come against them. Everybody will be conscious, corruption will be reduced.
All right.
Now, Moriah, from your topic, when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. What do we do? Be resilient. We do not need to give up because corruption is fighting back. We need to be strong enough to resist the fighting back of corruption to be able to defeat corruption.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Patrick. Yes.
I have just one question, okay, Chris. In the CCT trial, where the president of the Senate was, arraigned, we found out that after a while there was this publication indicting the president of the CCT, and because after that things just gradually went to a slow quietened. So I'm thinking, how does this fight against corruption fight back when corruption fights back? Is there a way that, or does it just quiet?
No, interestingly, the case you just mentioned is a graphic case of corruption fighting back. Yes. Because at several points, the so-called whistleblower who said that the chairman of the CCT collected monies never showed up, not even at the House of Reps, not even to the judicial inquiry. So, as it were, it was just meant to slow down the process. But as you and I talk, the Saraki case is still in court. He's appearing in court in February. What the government is doing is being more systematic and systemic in the fight against corruption. Now that people are saying, oh, it's so much of a hoopla in the media. So get to concrete and basics. And that's exactly what government is doing.
I have a call from Yola. Abdul Karim from Yola. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well, sir.
So, how You are busy work that you are helping a common people to understand what is happening in Nigeria. My own opinion over these corruption issues. Yes, President Mohamed Buhari is trying to fight corruption. But the main point to fight corruption, they never touch the area. Look, when we talk of what is happening at Abuja, we forget of local government or states. Where governors are siphoning money. Look, if federal government and state assembly with National Assembly want to save this country over situation of corruption, let them remove local government out of the joint accounts, missions, program they are doing. Because you will see they will say 100 million, 200 million to local government. At the end of the day, some local government will receive 30 million and no development. So please.
Thanks for that point, Abdul Karim. Thanks for that. Let me come to, what do you think, what's your reaction to that?
A sound point, but you see, power is a pyramid. Corrective leadership and responsible leadership is a pyramid, top to bottom. You can only instill some discipline and values in this country if the man who leads the way, the man who drives the vehicle, drives it right. You don't expect a child in a home to tell the father how to act. You know, times are, and almost always, where you say, oh, begin from the family unit. But you can't fight corruption that way. The man who runs the system, who's in charge of the law, must effectively ensure that we have monuments of reference and monuments of deterrence. If you begin with the federal government and fix issues, essentially it will trickle down to the local government. But fundamentally, I think that whether we like it or not, the fight against corruption is up and running. And that's why the asset declaration is a fundamental issue. You know, as you and I talk, certain properties worth over 10 billion was traced to a former army officer. And that essentially has affected the morale of those who are in the armed forces. And that's why Buratai is saying every soldier must declare his or her assets, so that we know exactly where we are, so that we do not give leverage for corruption and corruptive proclivities. And I give you a strong point here. The courts must be careful what figures of monies they threw up in the name of bail bond and then attach it to a civil servant. Because I don't expect a career civil servant to have 250 million and a house in Meitema, you know. But invariably, there's an impression.
But they usually do.
There's an impression, yeah, and that calls for investigation. There's an impression that a senior civil servant who is grade level 17 or 16 should have the property in Meitama, where property goes, where the land alone goes for over 100 million. And then you ask yourself, what are the expectations of so I think that the time has come for us to deepen our moral margins. The time has come for us to change our precepts and concepts and understanding of governance. And the time has come for us to insist that those who govern at any level must be accountable to
Let's take 3 tweets each, please.
Shirley Funky says, House of Assembly fails to make laws that will affect them, so will always be in status quo. Being Back Our Girl says, our major problem as a nation isn't financial corruption, but moral corruption. We are all morally corrupt. One last one. Samuel Steven says, I think I agree with all of you ladies about the point made by all, but I think corruption starts from the little mind which grows bigger, meaning that the security man who is asking you for 5 naira to let you in is also corrupt.
Nima?
Okusaga Romero Shine says, it's nice that they're in court and we know that these cases will remain there for as long as they want. That's what I hate and fear. And you know, the court system. So when Taufik says, we're feeling the impact of PMB as he is tackling corruption, tackling the war against corruption. May God continue to guide him.
Thriving Man says, we might not see this corruption fight going on in APC camp, but the fight is catching up corrupt Nigerians. Yomi Williams says, the world has the habit of making room for the man whose actions show that he knows where he's going. That's PMB. When will we start seeing convictions with this fight against corruption?
It will happen. You know, the judicial process grinds slowly, but surely it will happen. I am confident.
But they say there's corruption even within the
judiciary. No, but they're working on it already. They are working on it already. I tell you, I am very confident that the journey to the heights of progress has begun. I'm very confident that Mr. President is beginning to instill a paradigm of responsible and responsive leadership in our country. I am very confident that together with the Nigerian people, if we remove from partisan sentiments and prejudices, we can move and deepen this fight against corruption. And I'm confident that Nigerians understand that corruption is indiscriminate of the PDP or the APC. That hunger, that is a concomitant effect of corruption, is indiscriminate of where you're from, is indiscriminate of your tribe, your tendency or religion.
So we should all fight corruption together.
Aggregate at that parlor where all of us will say no to corruption and deepen our moral margins as a people.
Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate you being here. I think it was a good show today. Generally, what I got from this is that we should just be supporting, tighten our belt, and know that hopefully one day these people will be charged and we'll get our money back. That's what's important to us. Let's just get our money back and move on. And move on. And give a Minister of Housing and power and what's the
money to actually do what he needs
to do.
Yes,
he needs money. The guy needs money and he's going to come and beg pension funds. The man needs money. All right. Have a blessed day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.